girls then were the most sought after. I'm looking at one here now who is my classmate. Stand up to great applause. Uche, Nia, Diche. Stand up, let's see you. They used to appreciate you then. Thank you. Yes, she's my classmate. If you are jealous, become my classmate. Thank you. Oh, we have gone to call in the guests. They've been here. They were here as far back as 8 p.m. because we gave them the time as 8:30. So they've been here. They have gone to call them in. But first and foremost, we all know the rules. We will listen attentively. We will take questions down. We are going to ask them, particularly to the guest speaker. And we'll comport ourselves very well. Thank you very much. So while I go to join them to usher them in, you can continue the watering. There's no wine, so it's watering. You can continue to water yourselves. Yeah, I mean, there's water on the tables. And enjoy the quiet banter with your neighbor. Thank you. Again, good morning, great fellows. We have our guests seated at the high table. We're only expecting a guest speaker who is upstairs. She's been here since 8 a.m. But we will all the same commence with the program. The program is on page 8. So you can be looking at it. Well, the first recognition of dignitaries. Recognition of dignitaries. We have, let me start with the host, because the host will welcome the chief host, and both will welcome other members, adopted members of the Board of Fellows for today, who have come to felicitate with us. And the host we have here is our chairman, Prof. Our chairman Board of Fellows. Very consistent, very amiable. Prof. Mrs. Mbang Femi Oyewo, MFR. Somebody will ask, why is my own different? You can see the extra thing on her neck. Nobody has it here. That is not decoration, that is burden. Burden of office. In the past, they used to call it yoke of office. It looks beautiful. Actually, it's very beautiful. But on the other hand, very tasking. Congratulations, madam, again. We have the chief host. The chief host is the father of this profession. Very hardworking. Very prominent. A man of many parts. An achiever. A tireless worker. A man that you can aptly fit into what Oyibo people call perspectives. Depends on how you see him or how you are looking at him. If you're perhaps wearing extra glasses like me, well, I said he was around. Our guest speaker is around, please. A man, despite all the highs of his life, has simply chosen to answer Mazi. Not the other Mazi you know anyway. Mazi, FAM, Mazi, Sam, I, Ohuabunwa, OFR, President, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. My PSN president, please stand up one more minute. I want to appreciate you for clapping for me. Please, let's clap for our president. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Now, we have introduced the host and the chief host, who are members of our family here. But we have people who have invited to come and join this wonderful pharmaceutical family. And we have, if you look at him, he is the governor of Lagos State. If you see him with the same eyes as I'm looking at him. But if you choose to see him with the other eyes, he's represented by Dr. Olusegun Ogboye, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Lagos State. You're welcome, sir. I will come to the big man last. Let me welcome, just as I was talking, somebody just walked in. Gentle, almost unnoticed. But one beautiful thing about him is his sense of time. He was here by 8. No wonder he has given COVID no time. This is a man who, together with the next person I'm going to talk about, have battled COVID to a standstill. That all over the world, Nigeria is acclaimed for its very strong, very effective work on this ravaging problem that is ravaging the whole world. Here, now, let us give an applause, a recognition of the wonderful work done by this man, gentleman, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, who doubles also as our guest speaker. Thank you, sir. Now, he has his friend who closely they have fashioned methods and processes that is working for our country. He is unavoidably absent here, but he is with us because he has sent somebody very dear to him. Let us welcome, in the same vein, the chairman of this occasion, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who is represented by Mr. Andrew David Adejo, Permanent Secretary, Political and Economic Affairs, Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation. Well, I wonder why some people almost have it all. In life, there is the politics and there is the economy. And this man combines both, politics and economy. If you don't mind, sir, I'll be seeing you after. You're welcome, sir. Yes, the table is set. We have other dignitaries who recognize in due course, during the course of the event. But first, let me do the first and most important recognition. All fellows here, please stand up and take a bow. All fellows here, please stand up and take a bow. All fellows here. I join you now. Let's take a bow. Thank you. Other guests here present, you are most warmly welcome. When I was coming here, and my wife looked at the program, she saw the secretary, the SGF. She saw the director, NCDC. He said, my brother, you already sanitized, though. I should make sure my face mask is clean before I go. So, in keeping with the program, we'll do the national anthem. And the national anthem we do you know second stanza? Because it's almost like a prayer. Can we do the second stanza? Those of you are not ready to be invited by National Assembly. Who can lead us with national second stanza? Okay. Okay, yes.
All right, all compatriots, Nigeria's come away to serve our fatherland with love and strength. Heroes first shall never be.
Thank you very much. Now, program headlong. Let me recognize the chairman who put these activities together. The chairman of the planning committee, Sir Obahakwe. May we now have the welcome address by the chairman of the planning committee. You can come forward, step forward.
We welcome you all to this occasion. The chairman of this occasion, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Secretary General, the Secretary of the Federal Government of Nigeria, the guest speaker, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, Director General, National Center for Disease Control, NCDC. President Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Mazi Sama Habungwa, MFAR, PSN. The Chairman of Board of Fellows, Pharmacy Mrs. Professor Bang and Femi Oyewo, MFR, FPSN. Past President Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria here present. Past Chairman, Board of Fellows of PSN here present. Distinguished invitees present, fellow colleagues, the press, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great joy on behalf of the 2021 Media Meeting Planning Committee of the Board of Fellows, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, to welcome you all to this public lecture, being the third in the series. Since the National Executive Committee approved the topic for this lecture of today, National Development and Healthcare System, the effect of COVID-19. We all put our thinking caps to see who can best give us lecture on this topic. Someone who knows about national development along the lines of healthcare system and can marry it along with the current COVID-19 pandemic. The committee settled for DG of National Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. Through the efforts of colleagues, he has accepted honor the invitation to give the lecture. I wish to use this occasion to thank the guest lecturer for the love he accorded us by being physically present to deliver the lecture today, despite his busy schedule in this current third wave of COVID-19 in the country. For the chairman of the lecture today, we appreciate our PSN president, pharmacist Mazi Sama Habungwa, MFR, FPSN, who got us his friend in person of Boss Mustafa, a very good administrator and secretary to the government of the Federation, to be the chairman of the occasion. God bless you, the SGF, though not present. Knowing this SGF as a very busy person, for him to accept to come and he is present here today through his proxy as chairman, I say thank you, sir. You are welcome. We today have an array of participants in different spheres of economy and all over the world attending this public lecture, both physically and visually via Zoom. I cannot but appreciate the BOF, PSN chairman, pharmacist Professor Mrs. Mbag and Femi Oyewo, MFR PSN, for giving me and members of the planning committee this wonderful opportunity to serve this noble profession and for the wonderful and useful suggestion in course of planning this program. God bless you, man. You have been a wonderful assist to us during the planning level. I say thank to you all planning committee members for spending your valuable time in putting this program together by getting sponsors for the program. I pray that God will expand your coast as you strive to put this noble profession in the light of the public sphere. Once again, I welcome you all to this third public lecture of the BOF PSN holding today, 29 June 2021. Let us all sit back quietly and listen to this erudite scholar as he speaks to us on this topic today. May God bless you all and thank you very much.
Well, they told us that it is better to be late than never. At least he stood in front of the podium, even if it's for just some fleeting minutes. Now, let us appreciate the man who has put all this together. FAMSA Sam Obachuku. Thank you very much. Now, we are getting closer. Opening remarks by the chairman of the Board of Fellows, Prof. Mrs. Mbang and Femi Oyowo, MFR. Please, let's put our hands together for this very charming lady who has served our profession and our fellowship and our board very meritoriously. Prof.
I hope you are not retiring me. Because you said I have served very, I won't say more than that. His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Lagos State, our own governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, we appreciate the governor for granting the pharmacies an enabling environment to practice. So I start with that. Ably represented by the Permanent Secretary for Lagos Ministry of Health, Lagos State, Dr. Olusegun Ogboye. The chairman of today's occasion, Mr. Boss Mustafa. For a long time, I didn't even know Boss was his name. I thought they call him Boss because he's Boss. Before I actually knew that was his real name. Secretary to the Government of the Federation and currently heading the Nigeria's combat against COVID-19 pandemic, for which we have won global acclaim. He's ably represented by a very strong person, Mr. Andrew David Adejo, Permanent Secretary, Political and Economic Affairs Office. The President, PSN Pharmacies, our own President, Pharmacist Mazi Sam Ohuabua, OFR, FPSN, my friend, my brother, very dynamic and a former chairman of Board of Fellows, who loves BOF very well. The guest speaker of today, Dr. Chikwe Ikwehe Kwazu, the Director General NCDC. The chairman of the Media Meeting Planning Committee, our own pharmacist Sam Obachuku. We had to bring him out. We have a lot of pharmacists who just stay there, and he's done excellently well. A round of applause for that man. Past presidents of PSN, past chairman of Board of Fellows, distinguished fellows of PSN, our special guests who are here this morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and members of the press. You know, I don't like saying gentlemen of the press. I'm very biased. It's members of the press. It is indeed with the great pleasure that I welcome you all to the Board of Fellows of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, PSN, 2021 Media Meeting Events, starting off today with the third public lecture. This, incidentally, is my last public lecture as Chairman Board of Fellows, PSN. We started the public lectures when I took over 2018. We were able to have one 2019, 2020. We had a virtual one because of COVID-19. This year, we thank God that we are here. We thank God for preserving us through the COVID pandemic that brought the whole world and indeed the human race to a standstill and lockdown with unexpected challenges and consequences on our communities, nations, business, economy, and even our way of life globally. This has resulted to a new normal of doing things differently and virtually. Hence, today we have the first hybrid Board of Fellows public lecture. The Board of Fellows PSN was founded in 1972 with an initial membership of 20. It is a body of men and women of distinction and integrity who have excelled in their various fields of endeavors and who would interface with the policymakers and opinion shapers for the advancement of the pharmacy profession. The fellowship is the highest honor PSN bestows on her members. The media meeting is a statutory assignment of the board, and it is an annual event preceding the annual general meeting, which holds during the PSN annual national conference. The board, through her mandate to monitor government policies as they affect the practice of the profession and pharmacists, organizes lectures on issues of contemporary importance within and outside the pharmacy profession. For the third time, the Board of Fellows is having a public lecture with the theme, National Development and Healthcare System, Impact of COVID-19 Pandemic. I am delighted and honored to acknowledge and most especially welcome to this year's public lecture the representative of the governor who is here with us today, and also the chairman of today's occasion, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, a barrister professionally who had been involved in policy and implementation organs of the Federation government. He's currently heading the Nigeria's combat against COVID-19, and this has brought us global acclaim. Thank you, sir, for availing us of your representative to be here, for accepting and also ensuring that you have somebody here to represent us. Our guest speaker, Dr. Chikwe Kwezu, Director General, Nigerian Center for Disease Control, is an infectious disease epidemiologist with vast national and international experience in public health. Who else could discuss this topic than him? You are indeed welcome, sir. The theme for the 2021 media meeting is apt and timely, I will say. The current global challenges of the pandemic expose a lot of inadequacies globally and lack of preparedness in every area of national development, the healthcare, education. Everything was locked down, social infrastructure and economy. And last year, we looked at the policy framework for national development amidst the global challenges with Nigeria. Today, we will deliberate on the impact of these challenges on our national development and healthcare system with a view to channel the way forward, including having medicine and health security. As a profession responsible for drug products availability and services to the entire healthcare sector, we as fellows and elders must understand our roles and take up that responsibility. It is indeed with great delight that I welcome the dynamic president of PSN, Pharmacist Mazi Sam I, Ohabwan, OFRMON, NPON. I will stop at PSN, PSN. I don't know how he does it. He's always on the move. And yesterday I had to call him. I hope you remember. I said, no, I have to be there. I'm in Lagos. You know, the president of PSN to this meeting, past presidents of PSN, past chairman of Board of Fellows who are here, and I saw quite a lot. I appreciate you all. And all our distinguished fellows of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, I welcome you all to the 2021 public lecture. I also heartily welcome, the vice president of Nigeria Academy of Pharmacy is here, our own sir, Ifeanyi Atoye, FPSN, Pharma News, We welcome you here. To all our special guest dignitaries, the various professional bodies, scholars, captains of industries. Without them, we can't do much. Captains of industry, business world, representatives of the various arms of government, regulatory bodies that are here, and all invited guests, you are most welcome. We have representatives of the NAFDAC DG here, even in our midst. You are all most welcome. Other event for the board is the media meeting of the fellows on Wednesday, 30th June 2021, that's tomorrow, which is also a hybrid meeting, physical and virtual. I most sincerely appreciate the chairman of the planning committee, Pharmacist Sir Sam Ubachiku, FPSN, and members of his committee for a job well done. I thank you for your dedication, passion, innovation, and industry to ensure a successful hybrid public lecture. Members of the committee, if you are here, please just stand up for a bow, take a bow. Are they here or they are still walking outside? Thank you very much. You have done excellently well. Members of the fourth estate of the realm, that's our press people, thank you for your presence and your support always since I took over as Chairman Board of Fellows. You are all welcome. Finally, I welcome everyone and wish you all an insightful lecture as we identify, analyze the impacts of COVID-19 on our national development, healthcare system, and the way forward. The chairman of the occasion, the SGF, His Excellency, President PSN, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. God bless you all.
After Beijing, China, or even before Beijing, China, our women have been there. And our women have never disappointed. And when I said what I said, which you reacted to, it was not that I was retiring you, but I was also in the spirit because you concurred by saying this is your last public lecture. Okay. We have here with us the Director General, Nigeria Institute of Medical Research, Professor Babatunde Lawal Salako, who is represented by Farm Ebere Heberson, Deputy Director, Consultant Pharmacist, Nigeria Institute of Medical Research. Please stand up and be recognized. Just for mention, but don't say it out, but I will mention it. My dear Director General, NCDC, you know, pharmacists are also in the business of cloning. And we have our repost to you in the person of Uchewana. Uchewana, please stand up wherever you are. Uchewana, please stand. Remove your face mask. We have the rep of the Standard Organization of Nigeria, son, Van Farouk Salim, represented by the Deputy Director, son, Matthias Bassi. Please, may we recognize you. You're welcome, sir. We have Mr. Inya William Nasima. Thank you. You're welcome. We have Mrs. Margaret Adedapo, Director of Farm Services in Lagos State Ministry of Health. Please, may we recognize you. Thank you. We have Miss, yes, the young shall grow. Miss Yimika Oguns is the National President of YPG PSN. Please, let's encourage her with our appreciation. The young shall grow. Yes. I will have Mr. Ajibade Oluwa Bukumi, Vice President PSN, with her. Please, you're welcome. Please feel free, ask questions, interact, because you are the future of this profession. Thank you very much. Well, we were supposed to have the presentation, EMSO Pharmaceuticals and Industries Limited. I'm sure they are not yet here. So we will are they here? We will transplant them. And I have the honor and pleasure of inviting the Executive Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who is here. I've seen him, but for those of you who are watching, he's represented by Dr. Olusegun Boye, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Lagos State. Please, let's welcome him. Please, this program is being streamed live, it's on Zoom, and all fellows all over the country have joined in. Thank you very much, sir.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who's represented here today by Mr. Andrew David Adejo, the Permanent Secretary, Political and Economic Affairs in the Office of the SGF. Our guest speaker and a very close friend of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, who has worked very, very closely with us on the COVID response, which many of us might not be aware has gone on well for about at least 18 months now and has kept a lot of us very strongly on our toes. The Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. The President, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Pharmacist Mazi Sam Ohabonwa, and all past presidents of PSN. The Chairman, Board of Fellows of the PSN, Professor Mrs. Imbang Femi Oyewo, and all other distinguished fellows that are present here. The Director General, Standards Organization of Nigeria, represented by Mr. Bassi. The Secretary, the Board of Fellows of the PSN, Pharmacist Lanre Fami Lucy. The Chairman of the Planning Committee, who has put together this really, really nice program for today. Pharmacist Sam Ubachuku. Other distinguished members of the Board of Fellows of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria here present, all our invited guests, gentlemen of the press, and our own director in the Ministry of Health, our Director of Pharmaceutical Services, Mrs. Beckley, who is also here. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First, I bring apologies from the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, who considers this an important enough program to ask that I represent him here, but unfortunately he himself is unable to attend. So he sends his apologies and sends his great regards for the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and all your activities. He has asked me to say a few words on his behalf. First, he wants me to emphasize his commitment to improve healthcare in Lagos State and the working conditions of all health professionals. And as part of this is shown that by his approval for a quick exit replacement of all our health workers, so it doesn't take so long to replace people who are exiting, either due to retirement or brain drain or whatever other reasons take people out of service. He's also approved additional recruitment of staff to try and close the gaps that exist in the standard requirements for healthcare staff to population and what exists currently. There's been a lot of massive infrastructural improvement in the Lagos State health space and equipment upgrades as well, which I'm sure a lot of you have read about. But because we don't have much time, I'm not going to go into highlighting them. Now, the theme for today is national development and the healthcare system and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. I am not going to talk very much about that as well because we have an extremely capable speaker here who's going to do a lot of justice to that topic. But we all know that the greatest impact of COVID-19 probably on the health system is the fact that it has shown us all that we need to strengthen this health system. Once we all found out that there was nowhere to escape to, we realized that we need to ensure that the health system in Nigeria is not a backup system. It has to be the main health system. And as you're all aware, Lagos was the epicenter, and we put together a multi-professional response, which of course included a lot of pharmacy professionals who played a very, very important role in it, either the ones in government and also the volunteers that worked with us. We also worked very closely, as I had said earlier, with the national. And I must emphasize that the governor was the incident commander for this response in the organization. The Honorable Commissioner for Health in Lagos State was the deputy incident commander, and the governor attended quite a lot of EOC meetings, the Emergency Operations Center meetings, and he led directly from the front. He knew practically everybody who was involved in the response by their first names, and we got tremendous support from him financially and in putting his weight behind a lot of decisions that needed to be made. So I would like to appreciate the governor of Lagos State for his role in our combat against COVID-19. So having said all that, I would like to wish us all a really successful event this morning. Thank you very much.
You know, sometimes in our quiet moments, when we reflect, for me, I ask myself, how can I be a better person? What flashes through my mind is, when I grow up, I'll do something. When I grow up, I'll do something. I don't know for you, but for me, when the representative of the governor was talking, very explicit, very direct, very simple. And you know, it reminded me of a woman who was watching the husband deliver a lecture. And after 1 hour, the man was still going ahead. So the woman put a simple note to him, KISS, kiss. And the people who were beside her asked, why are you kissing your husband for such a boring speech? And the woman just said, keep it short, stupid. Keep it short, stupid. That's kiss, KISS. Well, another was speaking, and people left the hall. Only one man left in the hall. And he said, I must thank you for having the time to listen to me to the end of the lecture. I said, okay, I was waiting for you to finish so I can lock the hall. So when I grow up, I will learn to talk less. Thank you, my rep of the governor. Please, let's appreciate him. Please pray for me to grow, get older so I can learn to talk less. We now have come to another big masquerade. the father of the profession, a man who has chosen to be simply called Mazi, a man of many feats and many firsts, but a gentleman par excellence. Let me now invite. No, before we invite, may we all rise up, because it's customary before the PSN president speaks to us, there must be the pharmacy anthem. So please, let us rise up wherever we are. And we will give to lady. Huh? Okay. Morandia, everybody is chorusing you. Nightingale, Florence.
Okay. We pharmacists, we are proud of pharmacy. We members all of the glorious PSN, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. As men of honor, we join hands for farmers. We are drug making, we are drug dispensing, we are politics, we are just name it, we are Nigerians. Thank you.
Sister, a pity you did not add money making. We are. Abi, we're not there. Thank you very much. May I now have the honor and pleasure of inviting our own president, Mazi Sam Okwabunwa.
Thank you, a very distinguished moderator of this event, an expert in getting meetings go well. Let me acknowledge the departing governor of Lagos State, who is represented by Dr. Shegu Oboye, who has just left, I think, to attend to other events. Let me acknowledge the Permanent Secretary, Andrew David Adejo, who is representing our chairman of the event, Mr. Boss Mustafa. And also my brother, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazo, DG of NCDC. Our own chair, Professor Mbang Femi Oyewo, MFRF PSN, very hardworking woman. The past chairman of BOFs here, a number of them are in this room. Fathers of the society, real fathers of the society. You call me father. Well, I will accept, but the real fathers of the society are here. The elders of the society, members of the board of fellow, especially the elders, the real elders who are sitting in these last two chairs. Will you allow me to ask you to please take a bow? The senior fellows, the very senior fellows. Please clap for them, because they are exemplary. They are very exemplary. Every time we have events, they are here. Please sit down, sirs. You know, I was discussing with one of them that if these elderly people can be here, they will have no excuse for anybody to be missing, COVID or no COVID. So I like to acknowledge them always because they inspire me. Sometimes I feel I'm doing a lot, but when I see them and what they have done and they are still on, I then tell myself, guy, you even started. Let me acknowledge all the distinguished other pharmacists who are here, fellows of the Postgraduate College of Pharmacy and fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Pharmacy, members of NEC, of PSN who are here, other pharmacies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I like to say that I'm always very grateful to God when I have an opportunity to be at an event which is planned, because often it's man's to plan, but God is the one that gives the approval and enablement to be here. I'm happy because last year I wasn't present, even though it was also largely done online. But I'm here today, and we give God glory that we can meet. But this time last year we couldn't meet. The NCDC hasn't relaxed their requirements and their caution for managing the disease. I mean, talking about NCDC, I know that when Samuel Bachku asked me to see if I could help to make contact with Dr. Nyekwazu and Boss Mustafa, I said, why are you calling these very busy people at this time? They're quite busy. However, I said, let's try. And when we send the notes out, Dr. Nyekwazu was the first to respond within 48 hours. Please clap for him. He said, I am quite busy, but I cannot object to your invitation. That's a great honor for us. Thank you, sir. And of course, boss is all of us know the position of boss at this time. He's like the pedestal on which the government is revolving, and he's on everything. And I'm happy he has sent a very distinguished gentleman, Andrew, to represent him. And Dr. Nyekwazu, you know that you are so important to this meeting that we just felt in case they called you to go to China or Brazil, that we'll have a clone. Where is that a clone again? He could as well have come up here and we pretended he was Dr. Nyekwazu. You know, that's our level of preparation. So I'm very grateful that this meeting is holding, and I acknowledge all those who have made the sacrifice to travel. It's not easy to travel these days, even the cost alone. I mean, the airlines change their prices every second. It's almost a capital expenditure to travel in Nigeria these days. So any pharmacist who is any fellow who has traveled, we need to acknowledge that that's a great sacrifice and shows he loves the profession. We need to acknowledge that, and I'm very proud. I'd like to thank our chair. As he says, this is his last lecture. I want to congratulate him also for the innovation of the lecture, which is in its third version today. And the third version is very, very critical, especially in the subject, National Development and Healthcare System, Impact of COVID-19 Pandemic. I believe that we pharmacists have very strong role to play in national development and healthcare. Unfortunately, very often pharmacists are forgotten. Sometimes we are remembered very, very late. I remember that when this COVID-19 matter started, one of my frustrations was that pharmacists and professional organizations were forgotten. But when we began to call attention, I'd like to state that NCDC, especially Dr. Nyekwazu, responded and started ensuring that pharmacists are involved in matters relating to issues of COVID-19. And I believe that going forward, we need to make that point, that Nigeria has assets, and these assets will be included in the balance sheet of the nation. So very often, the government looks at the public side of the balance sheet and thinks that's all the country has. The country assets include public and private assets. We're all Nigerians, and everything in Nigeria belongs to Nigeria. I find that limitation. Each time government is looking at it, they look at public sector. You know, for example, the community pharmacists. We have always said that that is the greatest opportunity Nigeria has to expand its primary health services to the people of the country. That is it. And people that like Dr. Chikwe, who studied abroad, and who know that during the period of COVID-19, governments in developed countries use their pharmacists and their community pharmacies to expand first testing and then later on even the vaccination. But we seem to ignore Nigerian pharmaceutical outlets. That opportunity creates. Everywhere, pharmacies are the closest healthcare professionals to the people, to the community. And I want to speak this in your presence, Dr. Inyekwazu, because there's always this narrow vision about what constitutes healthcare in our country. And healthcare is not just doctor, it's not just medicine. It's a very comprehensive thing. And if we want national development and healthcare to grow, Nigeria must make a determination to look at its total healthcare assets and begin to promote them, utilize them, so that we can't have enough and we're behaving as if we didn't have anything at all. Because if we pull our resources together in the healthcare team, we'll do much better than sometimes energy is dissipated fighting for turf instead of uniting to serve the public. So for us, we insist that going forward, we shouldn't be asking who are frontline health workers. And pharmacy has to call attention that they are frontline health workers. Who are the people who are meeting patients every day? The guys in the community pharmacy are sitting down. And people walk into the pharmacies. You don't know who has COVID or who didn't have. Attention ought to have been paid in that regard early enough as we're getting our strategies together to fight COVID-19. I believe that this will get better in the years ahead. So let me stop at this point and say I am glad to be here. I'm grateful that pharmacists are here in fairly good number, even though we wish they will have more. And to thank our chair and members of the board of fellows for the great work we have done. I'm glad that for the first time in a long time, the Board of Fellows and the Pharmacy Society of Nigeria leadership have had no quarrels. We have had nothing to fight for, no disputes. The PSN has done its best to accord this board the respect that it deserves, which is the way it ought to be. It's the highest honor we can get in pharmacy. I wish we could do more to really respect those who hold this office called Fellows of the Society. And I pray that successor leadership in PSN will build on this so that we can utilize the resources where the Board of Fellows has intervened in so many things, in settling disputes for us in ways that have never done before. So I think this is the way forward, and I wish this lecture great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It takes an achiever to recognize another achiever. Because while achieving, you will know the challenges, the problems you have gone through. So when somebody is achieving, it's easy to recognize. It's easy to give kudos to the person who has done well. The PSN president is an achiever. And in equal measure, he has recognized the achievement of the BOF chairperson. And there is no doubt that our BOF chairman is walking the talk. Congratulations, madam. Congratulations, our PSN president. Indeed, pharmacy is indeed glad. Thank you. We skipped presentation, EMSO Farm Schools, and we skipped the presentation of the EMSO Farm Schools and Industries Limited. They are here now. 10 minutes, quickly. EMSO, where are you now? Okay. They are not here. We don't have time for those who will kill our time. Now, I will invite Fam Ngozi Honora. Is she here? To come and do the citation for the chairman of the occasion.
permitted to remove my mask by the NCDC DG. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me observe these protocols that have already been established since morning and go straight to read the citation for the chairman of this occasion, the Secretary to the Government of Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who happens also to be my boss because I'm a civil servant. I'm a director in NAFDAC. And he is ably represented by the Permanent Secretary in Political Affairs, Mr. David Adejo, who also, I'm the Director of Chemicals, and he is the Chairman of National Authority on Chemical and Biological Weapons. I also interact with his office, so I'm glad to do this function. Let me start by saying that Mr. Boss Mustafa, the chairman of this occasion, began his professional career in the private sector, serving in different companies, legal companies, in Sotesa Nigeria Limited, Mezzas Onagorua and Company, Lagos, Principal Counsel, Mezzas Mustafa and Associates, and then Principal Partner, Adroit Lex and Company. His zeal to contribute his quota to strengthening the legal profession informed his playing key leadership roles in the Nigerian Bar Association as Social Secretary, and then as Chairman, Yola branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, and also member of the Committee on Reform of the Judiciary in the former Gongola State. His track record did not go unnoticed as he got appointed into policy and implementation organs of the federal government, including executive member of the Interim Management Committee, IMC, of the Petroleum Special Trust Fund, member of the Constituent Assembly 1988 to 1989, and MD/Chief Executive Officer, National Inland Waterways Authority, NEWA. Mr. Mustafa was appointed the Secretary to the Government of Federation, that's the SGF, on October 30th, 2017, and he's still the SGF, and currently leading Nigeria's combat against COVID-19 pandemic, which we all have acclaimed this morning and still acclaim that Nigeria has received global acclaim in this regard. Thank you.
After the citation, what else? We welcome the chairman of the occasion, Mr. Boss Mustafa, ably represented by Mr. Andrew David Adejo. While doing the citation, I would like to add, she said political, I'm adding the economic because that one is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. MC, before you go, you know we learned from our elders. When you said earlier that you wanted to come and see me, so Mazi asked, you're coming to see me for the political or the economic? A question for you to handle. The guest speaker, I'm not sure whether to call a guest speaker or a guest lecturer, because when you allow Dr. Hekwazu to come and start talking to you about COVID-19, he will lecture you. He and his team literally turned my boss into a graduate of epidemiology, virology, and all the ologies in medicine and the uticals in pharmacy. The president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Mazi Ohabunwa, that my boss said, if I don't go for this event, Mazi will not let me rest. When we got the invitation to attend, he responded, I will be attending. But shortly, 2 weeks after that, political machinations started which culminated in the defection of a governor today. So as at then, they knew that this day will be out for him. So that is basically why he did not come. So please, the Board of Fellows of PSN, kindly accept his apologies. The Chairman, Board of Fellows, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, the past presidents here present, the past chairman of Board of Fellows, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I plead with you to adapt the protocol that has been established earlier on. I bring you warm greetings from Boss Mustafa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who had asked me to stand in for him, which is a difficult assignment, but I will try. You know, he's a 6-footer. His image is larger than life, but I will try to deliver his message. And he has asked me to speak from his heart to the Board of Fellows, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. The first thing is to congratulate the chairman of the Board of Fellows, Professor Mrs. Pharmacist, I don't know the order, please pardon me, Mbang Femi Oyewo, for getting this far, that she's successfully going to end the tenure. To begin is not usually the problem, but to end is what usually tells how well you've done. So he said I should congratulate you, and to also thank the past board fellow chairman and PSN president for the support they gave her, because without your support, she couldn't have succeeded. So Boss Mustafa expresses his thanks. And when he saw the topic, National Development and Healthcare System, the impact of COVID-19, it couldn't have been more appropriate now, not because we are out of the woods of COVID-19, but because the impact of COVID-19, besides on the health system relating to the national development issues, cut across all sectors. So it sees this as a very topical issue. And he said that contrary to the fact that people say COVID-19 brought to bear the inadequacies of our health system, that for him it was COVID-19 opening our eyes on the need to do more to bring our health system to what it should be. Because very few Nigerians exist that do not have, I'm sorry to say, an experience that is not too palatable with the health system. You see that you had an ailment that had to take you overseas, or you had an ailment that just for a small mistake, something took an uncle, a brother, or a sister away. That what COVID-19 did was to further open our eyes on the need to improve our health system. And he appreciates the fact that Nigerians rose up effectively to that challenge. And in rising up to that challenge, they've mentioned it variously that we are claimed to have put up a good fight against COVID-19. What so far it has done for us, which I'm sure Dr. Ihekwazu is going to talk about, is that we have made some appreciable improvements in our health system. We see new health facilities springing up. We see within a space of 1 year, Dr. Ihekwazu and members of the PTM, everybody, we established about more than 140 molecular laboratories. He can give the exact figures that he will speak to. We saw our medical personnel improving skills in invention, prevention, and control of diseases. We saw our local people coming up with inventions, though not too standard, but meeting standards that are helping to improve the health system. So those are quick takeaways that we had in the course of the COVID-19. One thing that, and it's very easy to lose sight of the role of pharmacists, like has been mentioned. But if we know in the heat of COVID-19, people were not going to hospitals. Hospitals were rejecting people. But the deaths resulting from other diseases were reduced. Which people led to that? The pharmacists contributed to that, and he said I should congratulate you on that count. Of course, as the chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee, we have been doing well. We should continue to do well. The virus is not relenting at all. We hear stories of what is happening all over the world. As Dr. Chikwe is sitting down there now, his mind is Delta. We have a Niger Delta here. We don't want a Delta variant in Nigeria. Let it remain outside Nigeria. And that is why, for instance, India, that is Nigeria's major economic partner in the world, we have to stop trade with them. We have to stop interaction with them by allowing people not to come in from there. That is a sacrifice we have to make so that we continually balance our public health concerns and livelihoods. Again, we should help talk to people professionally and otherwise. Let's get the vaccinations. The vaccines are getting scarcer, and we know the reason. So the most important thing is for us to stick to the non-pharmaceutical interventions. And on the part of government will continue to increase its vigilance. We have stepped up surveillance, and we are also escalating our risk communication and community engagement strategy to reach as many people as possible. One thing we know in Nigeria is that the health sector is one of the most contentious sectors because you have too many players and everybody is struggling for prominence. That government, on its part, will continue to build in policies, provide regulations that will provide a level playing field for every professional within that sector to play its part. I therefore want to use this opportunity to call on the Board of Fellows, if not especially the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, to please take serious advantage of opportunities that COVID-19 has offered in respect of the Health System Research Development Intervention Funds. It's a 100 billion naira fund for which we've been only able to disburse 234 million as at the last major count. And the reason being that that amount was only disbursed to researchers, not even to pharmaceutical firms. We are aware that some pharmaceutical firms are putting up products that will be able to meet the standards because there are guidelines that have been set. So it will be good if Pharmaceutical Association and other bodies like that, we are aware there are different vaccines being bandied around, but they are not meeting the criteria. The second one is that we appreciate the guidance the Board of Fellows is giving to the pharmacy profession. It is very difficult when older people leave the scene without hand-holding for the younger people. And government will continue to provide any support within its needs of resources and power to support the Board of Fellows to make sure that the integrity of the pharmaceutical profession is preserved. Finally, I know if I leave here without saying anything about this, I might not be allowed to leave the hall, not even the hotel. We know at the federal level, the consultancy lkeja has been approved. But most states are still fighting it. It has not been approved at the state level. And the way government operates, the federation operates in civil service using the National Council of Establishment, which has approved that the consulting lkeja should be federal and state. But these heads of services at the state level are the ones that have not been able to do that. So as the chairman of the Forum on Secretaries to Government, the SGF, will talk to the different states' secretaries to liaise with their head of services to see how they can cause and address any challenges that is leading to states adopting what has been approved at the federal level. signing of the pharmacy bill. Like you know, the the National Assembly has passed that bill, and is still with the president awaiting his signature. Again, procedurally, once an assembly passes a bill, before Mr. President endorses, it has to go through other stakeholders with interest on that bill. So until Mr. President gets the feedback on that, we will not be able to conclude on it. But once he does it, if it's something that will be reverted back to make amendments, the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria will know. On that note, I once more want to congratulate the Board of Fellows of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria for this public lecture. Request us to listen carefully to guest speaker, guest lecturer, guest professor, Chikwe Ihekwazu, and congratulate the Board of Fellows for this feat. On that note, I say, declare this event open. Thank you for your attention.
I want to, first of all, appreciate the organizing committee for their choice of people they have brought here. First, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who has also wisely and in spirit brought Mr. Adejo to come and speak to us. I think he knows that Mr. Adejo is home with us. He is at home with us. And he has spoken the language that pharmacists will want to hear. So let us appreciate him again, please. You're welcome. Thank you very much, sir. Well, we have Dr. Elijah Mohammed, Registrar, Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria. Dr. Mohammed. We also have in our midst Mohammed Yarobuda, former PSN president. We also have the Director of Pharmaceutical Services, Lagos State Farm, Mrs. Mosimola Bakley, representing the Commissioner for Health, Lagos State. We also have the Permanent Secretary, Sokoto State, all the way, Higher Education Fellow, Mustafa Uthman. You're welcome, sir. Now, each time I see my brother, the Director General of the NCDC, anywhere I am, I don't know why certain things come to my mind. For example, I will never forget 2020. Why? 2020 was the year that they kept telling us to continue washing our hands, yet there was no food. In African culture, you wash your hand, you eat. But we kept washing our hand. Nobody gave us food. And, sir, there was a home. The man came back, and the wife put food on his table. And he tested it and said, this food is tasteless. I know what the woman did. He called your people, and they came and picked him. He said he has COVID. He cannot taste, cannot smell. Please, I think when you are giving those highlights, you must mention this, that is very important. Okay. We are getting closer there. When the PSN president asked those elders to stand up on account of their being elders of the profession, incidentally, I was sitting with them. I didn't know whether to stand or sit. The young shall grow. Now we have the opening address, the introduction of the guest lecturer, and we invite Dr. Joda to do that. Thank you, Dr. Joda. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I'll be standing on the existing protocol. Thank you. Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, please could you stand? Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu is the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Dr. Ihekwazu trained as an infectious disease epidemiologist and has over 20 years' experience working in senior public health and leadership positions in several national public health institutes, including the South African National Institute for Communicable Diseases, NICD, the UK's Health Protection Agency, and Germany's Robert Koch Institute, RKI. Dr. Ihekwazu has led several short-term engagements for WHO, mainly in response to major infectious disease outbreaks around the world, including the WHO China Joint Mission on Coronavirus Disease 2019, COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and our guest speaker.
Above all, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu is a pride for the young men. The young men in Nigeria must be very proud of him for his great achievement, untainted, very hardworking. Keep flying the flag. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ma, for those very generous, the very generous introduction. Let me start by acknowledging the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, a man who I've come to know very closely in the last 2 years and admire his passion, commitment, and dedication to our dear country. Mr. Boss Mustafa, who is represented by my brother, PS Andrew David Adejo, with whom we also work very closely. Fortunately, the representative of the governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has just left. But needless to say, from the very first day of this outbreak, we've worked very closely with the Lagos State government. Given up to today, they still have 50% thereabouts of all the cases we have seen in the country. But really, the deepest thanks goes to our hosts. Firstly, Professor Mbang Femi Oyowo. I tend not to put the Mrs. in it because I think they deserve the full accolades of professorship, being the son of a female professor as well. And of course, the chief host, Mazi Sam Ohwabunwa. Really, it's difficult to say no to him. So sometimes it's easier to avoid the calls because when you see the call, you know you have to respond. But to be honest, it's really an honor to be invited by the Board of Fellows. And I really thank the distinguished fellows in this room, the organizing committee, for the thought of inviting me to speak at this event. Really grateful for the opportunity. There's a proverb, if Mazi will allow me to use it. It sounds better in Igbo, but it says that when children wash their hands well, they're allowed to eat with the elders. I feel very privileged to be here, and I hope I have a few words to share with you. I don't know if this will show somewhere. Okay. Okay, I'll start with Can I go back one slide? Yeah. I just kept this one slide. I don't want to spend too much time on the problems of our health sector because it's like preaching to the converted. But no event has highlighted the urgency of the moment, like the outbreak that we are faced or we are facing. And when our leader, the secretary to the government of the Federation, said so in front of the Senate, he was criticized to some extent. But he was just expressing the view of many of us. And sometimes when you're open to Nigerians, you attract the wrath of the same Nigerians. So he was being open that we're exposed to the challenges of a sector at a time that even money could not solve because the global supply chain was blocked and we had to suddenly come up with solutions internally. At the same time, we had spent many years building up parastatals, institutions. These are just a handful of them across the sector. And a few years ago, a new small organization was added to this called the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. I bet not many people had heard about us before January 2020, and rightly so. But I must give credit to the leaders that thought about the importance of an organization like this, because I shudder to imagine what would have happened if we didn't have one by last year. I want to just give a few words about the history of the organization and really to give credit to the people that came before me and those of you thinking about doing something new, even in the private or public sectors, and how important it is sometimes to reimagine the future and to act on it while you can. Because in 2007, when this was brought to the National Health Council for Health, and the many years it took to get to 2011, when a small group was extracted from the ministry and asked to go and start this new parastatal. Fast forward to 2016, when I was suddenly announced as the first Director General. In fact, I wasn't announced as the Director General because the position did not exist. I was appointed as a national coordinator and chief executive because there wasn't an act establishing the organization I was asked to go and lead. So there wasn't a position, there wasn't a tenure, there wasn't a legal mandate. There was a group of people that had been seconded from the Ministry of Health, uncertain about their present, uncertain about their future. And that's how we arrived in that place. So the first thing we did really was to work hard to get the legal mandate. And anyone that has worked with the National Assembly to get a law passed will understand what it means. And therefore, even though it's slightly on the side of today's occasion, I also want to publicly acknowledge the role of distinguished Senator Sam Ohuabunga, who was at the time the chair of the Senate Committee of Primary Health Care and Communicable Diseases, in the role he played in supporting us through this process, not just in his role as a chairman, but really in a role as a mentor in guiding the process through. And many of those things are no longer remembered by many people. So I thought it's important to place it on public record here. So today, we as a country have a center that has a mandate, a legal mandate to prevent, detect, and control the spread of infectious diseases, guide surveillance activities, support states in the response. And that's why I've been working so closely with my brother, Professor Bayomi, over the last 1.5 years to develop a network of national public health labs, public health research, and all of that. We have 3 campuses in Abuja, 2 in Abuja, 1 in Lagos, and the old Central Public Health Lab here. So a little bit to the subject of today. This slide was a cover of Time magazine a few years ago. I used to use the slide a lot to try and convince people on the urgency of preparing for the unknown. And many of my colleagues did the same. And for it to be on the cover of Time, it meant that some people actually felt this was important. But to be honest, I also hope that it won't happen in my lifetime. Because when you know about the possibility of what can happen when viruses resort and understand the potential impact of humanity, and understand how little we were prepared for an event like this. As a common humanity, I'm not just speaking about Nigeria. You know, it was very worrying, but really nobody listened. Nobody listened to the threat. A few people did, but not a lot. As we tried to build up the institutions, solicit for funds within the national budget, ask the private sector to support. I remember coming to Lagos in 2017-18, going to corporate Nigeria, trying to convince them that it is in their own best interest to support the work that we're doing on their behalf or trying to do, and getting very little access, not to talk about support. Fast forward to 2020, they were queuing up in front, begging us to advise them on what to do. But that's where we were, so we are faced with an existential threat to today's situation where we had a virus that none of us knew 2 years ago, to have now led to just under 180 million cases and 4 million deaths. 4 million deaths in 1.5 years for a virus that nobody knew about. Very few things can cause more damage. Very few. So if nothing has happened, I hope this has awakened our global consciousness to the threat of infectious diseases. But this hasn't been the first one we've been working on. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we've had a few warning signs. We had the 2014 Ebola outbreak, which we responded to successfully. But then we spent the next 5 years celebrating our success and not building on the deficits that we found. And when I came here last year to look at the IDH, the emergency operation centers, all the facilities that were put in place for the Ebola response, we are back to the situation pre-Ebola. So we did not build on the opportunities that we had. In 2016, we saw the reemergence of polio. We blamed it rightly on the insecurity in the Northeast. In 2017, we saw the reemergence of monkeypox, infection that has last been seen in Nigeria in the 70s. We saw a large outbreak of meningitis in the Northwest. Lassa outbreaks have continued to 2019 when we now were confronted with this COVID outbreak. But remembering the topic for today, it is not really what has happened, but what we did with it. So since then, every outbreak has been an opportunity to build. So when we talk about national development, what does it really mean? It means developing our country, our infrastructure, the people, and bringing all of this together to serve. So with each of these outbreaks, we kept building one lab after the other, building our EOCs, building our human resources, and I'll go into this in a bit more detail through looking at the COVID response itself. In Nigeria, we have been, I don't want to say lucky, because it's not completely luck. We have worked very hard, and we're still now studying a collection of factors that have influenced the situation, but we've just under 170,000 cases altogether, and about 2,000 confirmed deaths from COVID. We think this might be double that amount, but probably not exponentially more than what we've been able to record in terms of deaths. This is what we call an epidemic curve. It shows you the incidence of cases, so number of new cases per week. Each of these bars represent a single week. And you can see the so-called first wave and second wave. And where we are now, we have seen consistently low number of cases for the past 2 months. And this is the trajectory of the outbreak. Since the 31st of December, we set up a preparedness group to start monitoring the situation in China and advising us on what to do. On the 26th of January, we actually then anticipated cases in Nigeria and started preparing guidelines, processes on what to do. By the 20th of February, before we had the first case, we had activated 4 labs in the country to start testing individuals with symptoms. This was at NCDC in Naima, Luth, and the Africa Center for Excellence in Genomics in Ede. After a few false alarms, we then found the first case on the 27th of February, and we established and activated our National Emergency Operations Center to start responding, and sent our first 2 rapid response teams to Lagos and Ogun states to support the states in the response. The PTF was then established, and we continued building since then until March 2021, when we started the vaccination efforts led by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. So in terms of the national response, this has been coordinated in what we call pillars. One are emergency operations centers. So this is something we learned from the military. Normally in our world of academics, we are very consultative in decision making. So when there's a hard decision to be made, we've set up a committee, and the committee meets and agrees on the next meeting date. This is not actually appropriate when you're responding to an emergency, so we borrowed this concept from the military, and we taught ourselves how to make decisions in the absence of sufficient information. The key thing was to make a decision and to move forward with whatever information that you had. We started the rollout of public health laboratories, worked on risk communication using different methods, focused on surveillance so data can drive our response, focused on case management, and building up a supply chain infrastructure across the country. So a bit more detail on each of this and how we have used this to build for the future and build towards national development. The one that is currently quoted the most is the expansion of our laboratory architecture in Nigeria. So very early on, we knew that this was a difficult disease. You know, if you think about historically the other diseases that have caused us a major problem, whether it's smallpox with its very obvious features, whether it's polio with its flaccid paralysis, or even Ebola with its pathognomic vomiting of blood. All of them are very specific in their clinical presentation. Here we were faced with a new virus that caused everything from the spectrum of completely asymptomatic in 70 to 80% of cases to mild fever and aches to respiratory distress that can be caused by hundreds of different viruses presenting similarly. So at that point, we realized that the lab will be incredibly important for the identification and management of these cases. So we started up a process in a context of a blocked supply chain, an environment where people had hardly invested in this for years. And to be honest, we did not start de novo building labs. We looked around the country for wherever we could find, whether it was in a university. Initially, we focused only on the public sector, state, FMC, that had some level of capacity already. And then we supported them to rapidly scale up. And we didn't go through the normal government processes. We were working like entrepreneurs, sending people around, looking, supporting, and escalating that process as quickly as possible. Eventually, we recognized that we couldn't do this within the public sector. And with Lagos in the beginning, we started accrediting labs to do the same work. We knew that we had to find a balance between ensuring that the quality assurance was in place, but also increasing the volumes that we're able to test. But that's just one aspect of the response. A few years ago, surveillance activities for infectious diseases were done by paper and at best, Excel sheets that were sent from the local government to the state, and eventually they got to the national. We had been transforming the surveillance system in Nigeria to a digital online-based system. But the process of this was very onerous because you had to train everyone in all the local governments to do this. So in the middle of this outbreak, because now people were supporting the resources, were a little bit more available, we could accelerate this process, and SOMAS, which was our system, was rolled out in the entire country before the end of last year. So now, not only do we get COVID data in real time, we get that data for all the infectious diseases that are reported to every local government in Nigeria in real time through a digital surveillance system. And that's the reason why for every single day in the last year, you get COVID numbers presented to you every single night. And we haven't missed a single day. Anyone that has tried to do this, collect data across the country, will understand how difficult this is. But it's important not only to think about development in terms of infrastructure, but all the small, soft things that are part of it. I mentioned our emergency operations centers. We started rolling this out pre-2020, but again, the outbreak enabled us to find the resources to make sure that today we have EOCs in 35 of our 37 states. The only reason we're waiting for the last 2 states is that the states actually have to provide the infrastructure, the building where this can be set up. We do everything else, but we don't build, so that the state takes ownership of the centers. So the last 2 states are now in progress, and we're hoping to have this activated very soon. The other thing was on training of healthcare workers on infection prevention and control, using both physical methods and online methods. This is an ongoing process, and it's really something we hope, one of the collateral benefits of the response, that we hope that healthcare workers are now fully sensitized in terms of how, when, and why to use masks, to wash their hands, and we hope that this will now stay beyond the outbreak, and they will know we will collectively not go back to our old ways in terms of neglecting the basics in terms of infection prevention and control. Risk communications is a very tough, this is probably one of the toughest things to do in the work that we do, but it appears to be the easiest, because we always think it is just by printing a few banners, producing a few jingles, you get people convinced. But we are learning the hard way, and we learn the hard way over and over again, because people are developing other means to communicate. And we've had to fight fake news from the beginning of this outbreak on every single item, on testing, on cures. We have all forgotten, and we'll get into that, on cures of them from Madagascar, on chloroquine, on ivermectin, on so many stories that have come and gone. But once they're there, they dominate the social discourse so intensively that even despite the number of deaths I mentioned earlier, we're having to really convince people of the benefits of vaccination. So we started this campaign. We called it Take Responsibility, and really asking people not just to rely on government for what they should do, but take responsibility themselves to engage, to lead. We set up a crisis communication team, so we responded to every fake news story as quickly and as rapidly as we could. And we set up a website called covid19.ncdc.gov.ng that has become the biggest source for information and data for the entire continent on COVID-19. But we also pushed on contributing to research. Previously, when you pick up, even now, if you search for articles of what happened in the you find a lot of articles published by our colleagues around the world with So we insisted on documenting our own outbreak and documenting the response and owning our response. So publications have been coming out on every aspect of this response, done in collaboration with many other partners, sister ministries and agencies in the response. And what is going on now in terms of development, we have 16 brand new infectious disease centers being set up across the country. These ones have been commissioned already in Abuja, Jos, Kefi, Jalingo, Kebbi, Owerri, and Katsina. They're spread across the country, and we're hoping to have one in every teaching hospital or FMC in every state in Nigeria, with the equipment, the self-sustenance for labs, its own pharmacy, its own small theater. So everything you need to manage your infectious disease cases are within a specific facility in one of our hospitals. So hopefully this will be some of the legacies of the response that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is very keen for us to achieve. I won't bore you for too much longer, but when we talk about variants and the Delta variant that was mentioned, these things cannot be found through normal diagnostic mechanisms. They can only be found by a very complex technique called genomic sequencing. And there are very few centers that can do this. So in Nigeria at the moment, there are 3 centers, NCDC, NIMA, and the Africa Center for Excellence in Genomics in Ede. We have done about 1,000 sequences so far. We haven't found the Delta variant, thankfully, but at least we're looking. Because if you don't look, you won't find. The key to the response is to have the ability to find it early in order to then respond. If you can't find it and it starts spreading, and you don't know it is spreading, then you're caught on the back foot. So the immediate priority of government is twofold, because this outbreak keeps challenging us in new ways. One is to scale our genomic sequencing capacity. 2 is to radically scale the access to oxygen in our treatments and in our tertiary hospitals. So, but if we can sort out these 2 things, we would have taken that national development that seems so theoretical from A, maybe not to Z, but to somewhere around VW. So my point is that really a lot of these, what we call national development, really has to be broken down into opportunities for investments moving forward in the future. So now to get to some points that may be more interesting for many of us in the room. The very challenging supply chain dilemma for diagnostic therapeutics and vaccines that we've faced. of inequity in access to existing interventions, the weak regulatory pathways for the evaluation of these things, and an overdependence on global markets. The other challenge that we have is really a challenge of science. So when these stories started emerging over the last year, thinking about it now seems self-evident. But this is an issue that was actually brought up in the presidential task force meetings, and we had to respond to it and convince people that were pushing us. Why Madagascar can do this, why can't we do this? Why are we not looking internally? And I agree with that we should look internally. But we must look internally in an ethical way. We can't, on the one hand, say we're scientists and we understand how we evaluate the benefits of antibiotics through clinical trials. On the other hand, we say there's a cure and we believe it works. So we as people too have to separate our pathways to knowledge and which ones we choose to use, whether they're pathways of science or alternative pathways. And when we speak, we have to be clear on which pathway we're speaking about. So when this came up and everybody started pushing, it took some months for the outbreak to accelerate in this country that had apparently had the cure. And it was only when hospitals in Madagascar became full of patients and now had one of the highest case fatality ratios in the world that people started realizing maybe this cure that we were all drinking might not have been the ultimate solution. And in fact, it wasn't. But the stories continued. People were hoarding hydroxychloroquine, buying ivermectin, depriving the patients that actually needed ivermectin for their treatment from access to those treatments. So it really showed that we had a fundamental challenge with really understanding the principles of clinical trials and how we make a decision that a therapeutic intervention works or not. Because if we as scientists, especially in the health sector, don't really understand this and do not take ownership of its communication and leave it to the secretary to the government of the federation to communicate. And we heard very little from the professional organizations at that time to protect the integrity of the underlying science that is the foundation on which our professions are built. So I want to challenge all of us collectively to not keep quiet when these questions come up, to raise your voices. We need your voices because government has a credibility challenge in our country. We do. So we need others to say, listen, if you understand why antiretrovirals work for HIV and how we found that they work, and that this happened because trials showed that more people that got the treatment had a benefit that outweighed the risks. And that even though this might take a few months to do, it is important that we do this before we champion the use of an intervention that people will consume. If we collectively understand and communicate how important this is, we stand the chance of regaining the credibility of the professions that we hold so dear. So as we face this challenge in Nigeria, today we have a big challenge with access that is leading to a lot of leaders in this room and elsewhere really rethinking about the role of the pharmaceutical industry and what and how we need to produce more locally, even when there are interventions abroad. Access to them is a challenge. Even when there's access, the cost is a challenge. I know the DG NAFDAC is rapidly trying to scale up their capacity to regulate and to get to the level 3, which is what they need for vaccines. And it's incredibly important. You cannot develop a vaccine manufacturing industry if you do not have strong regulation. It's simply impossible to do so. And we have seen from the shutdowns last year that the dependence on the global market, even when it seems cheaper to do so, might not always work when the markets are shut down. So I don't want to end on the note of problems. But at the same time, I don't have all the solutions to offer. But if there's one thing I've learned in this outbreak, is that none of us can do it on our own. None of us, not public, not private, not Nigeria, not diaspora, not doctors, not pharmacists, not lab scientists. We have to find ways of collaboration. And this is hard because we tend to celebrate individuals and groups in our country. It is hard to say no to people saying you should celebrate your own and say, no, we must celebrate together. But it is simply the only way. Now we know India as the vaccine manufacturer of the world, but it did not start today. They have been working on this for decades, building up their scientific capacity. You cannot have successful entrepreneurship in the manufacturing side, in therapeutics and vaccines, if you don't have the science underlying the work that you're doing. So in the last few months, as we have engaged on vaccine manufacturing, we have met with colleagues in India. And what has surprised me is that all the companies that are pushing on the manufacturing side are led by people that have invested the first 20 to 30 years of their careers in science, and only came to entrepreneurship and the manufacturing and industry sides later in their careers, after they had an understanding of the science. And that successful manufacturing at the end of the food chain in the work that we do is only possible with a foundation of science. So we must find a way of bringing these closer together and learning from countries like India that have done this successfully. I've lost the picture there for some reason. And really bring academia and manufacturing somehow closer together. I don't quite know how we'll do this because the separation seems to be growing. There's very little migration that seems to happen from academics into entrepreneurship. And there's very little communication between entrepreneurs and science. And without this, I really struggle to see how we will grow in this new challenge of our generation. But to imagine that a country that, for many of us that might have visited, maybe a few years ahead of us, but really not light years ahead of us in India, is the second largest manufacturer of COVID-19 vaccines. And this happened 8 months into the publication of the first sequence of the virus. How can a country move so rapidly? How can we position Nigeria to do so in the future? We can only do so by really working together. And we are focused on this in small ways, in bringing government, and we have learned from different things how important this is to really tap into local knowledge in local industry, in entrepreneurs, in science, bring in the private sector to help us with the raising of finances, to the governance, to the writing of business cases. Nobody is investing in you if all you have is an idea. And no matter how hard we're trying now to attract some of the funding, there's a lot of global funding available for vaccine manufacturing. But we are finding it very difficult because we haven't positioned ourselves well enough in a way to attract this. So now we are working very hard to do so. And there's a lot of effort into doing this, but we're doing things we should have done 10 years ago. And it's only by doing this that we will actually attract both the international partners, international financing, some of them commercial, some of them donors, to build back better, to develop an opportunity for our children to benefit from this and make sure that our country is safe moving forward. So ultimately, I'd like to appeal to all of us in the room to not give up on the co-creation of a better future for Nigeria. And that even within government, it is a struggle. But we are trying. I speak to my brother, Tunde Sadako, who leads NIMA on a weekly basis. I just saw Dr. Obi Adigwe, who leads NIPRID, attending another event. We are trying for the first time ever to actually think together, realizing that our opportunities are mutually dependent on each other. We cannot outcompete ourselves out of this challenge. And together we might be able to build on the opportunities for the future. But it needs to get a lot broader. We look forward to a much stronger NAFDAC, and I know they're working towards this. And together we'll build up and support each other with the private sector in building up a local market that will drive the opportunities into the future. So I'll end with this slide. This is a paper that we published in Nature with a few other colleagues. It was published in 2019. So prior to the pandemic, Nature is one of the preeminent medical journals in the world. And we're pushing for a new 21st century science for epidemic response. And one of the most important quotes to me in this paper was, with the rapidly changing ecology, urbanization, climate change, increased travel, fragile public health systems, epidemics will become more frequent, more complex, harder to prevent, and harder to contain. I wished we had more time to act on this. Sadly, we didn't. We ended up with where we are. But we do have an opportunity to prepare for a better future. Thank you very much.
Let me perhaps say something. Yes, we can clone the person, but can we clone the brain? My Gigi, we can clone the person. BOF have successfully done that. But we want to see whether we can clone the brain. Please, let us appreciate him. Let us appreciate him. Well, like I said earlier, the organizers of today's event have never made any mistake. I said that Okay, I know the reason. The COVID is respecting the DG. Okay. Well, we are going to take a few questions, but before that, if I ask you to ask the questions now, you may not allow the other program, which will take 5 minutes, our presentation, to take place. So we will take the presentation, then after we will take the questions. Then there will be presentation of plaques to the chairman and the guest speaker. Please, the presenters, please, let's come forward. Thank you. I am watching you. Keep the pump high.
Not showing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this system is good slowly.
Okay. Work in progress. While they are still at it. You know, there was this sick, this patient who went to see the doctor. And while the doctor was doing the cross-examination, this discussion ensued. Doctor, how is your health? Well, I am coping very well. And after the whole event, prescription was made. And the doctor told the patient, take this medicine and walk for 30 minutes every day. Take this medicine and walk for 30 minutes every day. And come back to me after 2 weeks. This was done in Benin. After 2 weeks, the patient called for Badagry. Doctor, I have walked for 30 minutes every day for 2 weeks. I'm now in Badagry. Do I continue? I'm doing this because of you, so. Well, you know, after the recent unfortunate incident in our country, the lkeja issue, the power of the social media is even more recognized. So when I came here and sat down, and one your league walked up to me and was talking to me, I kept my face down. As the young lady was talking, I kept my face down. I don't know who is snapping the photograph. Okay. It's not our portion. But I know. Yes, I just said, I know. Everybody kept quiet. They wanted to listen. Emzo. I've not seen you for a long while.
Is that already, or should we take questions?
Okay. Yes. We will now go for the questions and answers. How many of you have questions? Please raise your hands. One. Yes, one. Just take your number. One. Any other person? Any other? Just one person. Okay. Can we take your question now, sir? This is one of the foremost leaders of the profession, Sir Ike Onyechi.
Thank you very much. May I thank the guest for such a delivery, such a depth of knowledge. My question links up to the earlier comment by the president of PSN about not deploying the pharmacist enough in COVID efforts, just like in many other healthcare interventions. I heard you clearly when we were talking about collaboration. It may not be for you, but efforts can start from here. My question is, or my contribution is, can this meeting be a takeoff point for more involvement of pharmacists in future pandemics or other outbreaks, which are always at the corner. Nobody knows when it comes again. By a stroke of travel chance, I listened to President Biden boast, I can say boast almost, that he has 50,000 pharmacies where people can walk in without appointment and take their vaccines. And he wasn't boasting. Besides other clinics and hospitals and other centers that were created, I'm sure you have the numbers yourself for your global exposure. So because of that occasion, I walked into one of the pharmacies owned by a Nigerian pharmacist in Houston. I had my own vaccination. There was no appointment. There was no queue. It was like magic. It's one of us who moved over there and is practicing. And every other of the 50,000 pharmacies, this is the president boasting of the pharmacies he has. And here are we lost. And we are trained. Some of us are certificated to do the vaccination. And you are there, not even knowing all the resources you have. So I'm challenging you or appealing to you to let the right things be done. This country can be better off next time. You can have at least probably 5,000 well-qualified, and it's not space technology pharmacists were involved in MPI under Dera Washika. Dera Washika was the leader. He led all the professors, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, and everybody. And the good job was done. So why are we this way? It's worrisome. This was just last month. I had my own. So please, whatever we need to do, you talked about entrepreneurs. There are many entrepreneurs in Nigeria, among the pharmacists too, who are investing in other areas. Some are investing in the oil industry, some are investing in farms, some have large organizations. You can be the catalyst with it to link up government. You talk about private government, the global participation. Collaboration is what we need. And India, it didn't take them a century to get to where they are. Vaccine, you talked about NAFDAC. I don't think it has to be left to NAFDAC alone. When the world was locked up, we couldn't get even some drugs from other countries, from India and others. So I'm sure there could be another way of fast-tracking NAFDAC efforts to get the level 3 of the regulation. Something can be done as an emergency. Nigeria can collaborate with the Indians and other nationals to start our own vaccine, and you can, going forward, standardize the regulation. Please, do something, sir. Thank you.
So I think we should take the questions first. Then, after you spoke, you incited everybody. Let's go to the ladies. Somebody said we're not gender sensitive here. Yes, let me start with you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Ihekweazu, for the awesome presentation. It just shows how much more work we have to do. My question is around preparedness. You shared plans that are underway or activities underway in search of the Delta variant or any other variant. But my question, sir, would be, if you were to find that variant today, what would you do? And since this is a room of pharmacists, what would you require from the pharmacy profession? I think whilst we hope not to find such things, we need to have learned from how slowly the machinery turns, that it probably would stand us in good stead to have the action plan already disseminated so we have a chance to put things in place ahead of time should such a time arrive. Thank you.
Yes, next question. We are going to take 5 marks. 5 marks. Thank you. Let me go to the table of elders.
Well, no, I'll try to stand. I'll try to stand up. I'll try to stand up. Thank you, everybody. My name is Chief Tunde Humponuusu. Well, I know that many of us will have had the 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Well, I have. And I would like the Director General to throw some light on this issue that after the 2 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine and one goes for a test, he's asymptomatic and he tests positive. What will be the outcome of his next procedure? And whether he can transmit the disease to some people around him since he has tested positive or not. That is one of my questions. Sorry, I'm linking 2 questions together. The second question is that, well, we know the population of Nigeria. We are over 200 million. And we know the nature of the health facilities we have in Nigeria. I just wonder that with the low rate of incidents that is being recorded in Nigeria, whether we are under recording, under testing, or we have not done enough of such to really get the accurate figures, because it is a kind of, well, the DG, the Director General, has told us even this morning that the number of deaths is just over 2,000 in Nigeria. And whereas in many countries that are much smaller than ours and less populous, we found that the numbers are high. Could we be that we are trivializing the whole issue, the impact of this pandemic, and we are under recording, as the case may be? I would like if the DG can shed some light on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Then 2 last questions from here. Yes, there is one question online. Then I'll take you first, then you second from the online.
Standing on existing protocol to enable us save time. I am a pharmacist, Professor Cyril Usifo from University of Benin. You mentioned building pharmaceutical capacity and a bridge between academia and industry. We've been working on that. The first question is, where does your team come up to help build this strong capacity, knowing that pharmacists are very, very essential in this fight against COVID-19? 2, you talked about co-creation of a better future for Nigeria. I may ask a very passionate and selfish question. NCDC, NIMA, and NIPRID, you are working on partnership. I hope NIPRID is not a junior partner, but equal partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Still standing on existing protocol. This question is online from pharmacist BC Bright. And she says that, thank you, Dr. Ihekweazu. Your mitigation is most encouraging and puts the mind at rest. I have a few questions. Are you saying that the Luth trials and the NAFDAC trials have been set aside and lack credence? Another question is, what is being done about the testing of citizens for immunoglobulin antibodies, neutralizing antibodies, and convalescent plasma therapy? Those are the questions online. Thank you very much.
Finally, I called it off, but when somebody says come, you come. Farm Adagazu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ihekwazu. You talked about the challenge of science. I'm more worried about the issue of vaccine uptake. And as you are aware, vaccine hesitancy is a very serious problem. You can work hard to get all the vaccines you want, but if it comes to the country and people refuse to take, it becomes a minus for us. What are you just going to, I think you need to develop new strategies to handle vaccine hesitancy, which is, to me, very, very critical at this stage. Secondly, sir, you interact with WHO, with other agencies at will, but we have a regional body responsible for health, the West African Health Organization. To what extent? Thank you very much.
Before you answer the questions, one layman, we are talking about people taking the vaccines. The man simply said, get to the breweries, put the vaccines in Heineken. And before you know it, the compliance will be 80%. Thank you.
So thank you, colleagues, for some excellent questions. I will start from our president here, who has just asked, Chairman, sorry, I have to learn the different, even in government we don't agree. Some people are DG, ED, ES, so it's a common challenge. But anyway, the chair has asked how many vaccines have we actually gotten into the country. So, like we all know, there's a really global challenge around the supply chain of vaccines that was made worse by the outbreak in India. And a lot of the projected doses for our continent were diverted to respond to the epidemic there. So far we've received 4 million doses. Which will cover 2 million people, which will be about 1% of our population, which is by far too little. Having said that, we have the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency that leads on this, hasn't distributed it equally. So Lagos has gotten a lot more because of the force of transmission here. So the key thing is the government is working very hard. Nothing occupies the time of our leaders more right now than looking at the different pathways to get access to more vaccines. And maybe I'll just jump to the question on vaccine hesitancy so I can deal with that. You know, no doubt it's a challenge, and a challenge that we have to deal with collectively. In one of our calls across the continent, organized by the Africa Center for Disease Control, the colleagues from Uganda were speaking on how dominant vaccine hesitancy was in Uganda when they got the first consignment around the same time we got. But suddenly, Uganda is facing a big resurgence in cases. And people started seeing people they know. Hospitals were full, people were dying, and right now, people are fighting themselves to get access to the vaccines. So it is a real challenge. You know, I think about this every night. Are we waiting for people to, before we recognize, we see them across the world, but somehow we think for some reason it can't happen to us because it is not our, yeah. So, to be honest, I don't have a magic answer for us. But it's something that, just like I said, we need to raise our voices on some issues. We really have to keep doing that. Let me just try and do my best to answer some of all of the questions the best way I can. Saonyechi, I completely hear you. But I also think it is not all doom and gloom. We have a growing, let me start with NCDC. We have a growing and vibrant group of pharmacists working at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The most senior is a deputy director. I'm sure in the next few years she will be a director. And that is growing a whole supply chain division, supplying pharmaceuticals in response to certain diseases for which there's not a commercial market available, and many other aspects. So firstly, internally, but I also hear your comment on the strategic level. And I hear you when you say pharmacies in the US are venues for vaccination. You're absolutely right. So please, let's keep engaging. In Nigeria, you know, a lot of the things were asked at the federal level, and the secretary to the government always challenges us on this, actually need to be agreed on and delivered at the state level. And that is really where this advocacy needs to happen. Even with the private sector labs getting involved in testing, our role was actually to encourage. But the management of this, the accreditation, all of this is a state government responsibility. And Lagos was actually very good in doing so. And other states followed suit. And it was a good example for us to show other states that, listen, see what Lagos is doing. But in that area, especially in the work we do, we can't leave it completely to private. So Lagos supports the coordination for accreditation purposes and manages some of the aspects. But I think there are innovative ways to include the private sector more and more in delivering services where there's a public good. So I take your point. I'll take it as a piece of advice. I will keep it in mind as I engage and make sure that we include it in the other conversations. Now, the question on what we should do now in terms of detecting the new variants. So what we're doing is really scaling our sequencing capacity. Sequencing is not something you can start from scratch generally. It requires a lot of effort, equipment, know-how. So we're working with institutions that have this already to start. But there are some interesting private sector players in this field at the moment. There's a company called 54 Gene, based in Lagos, that are really driving, using innovative ways in how the private sector can help us in delivering some of this. So there are some interesting developments happening, but definitely there's a lot of work to do. Chief Tunde Sir, you asked about the vaccines and breakthrough, what we call breakthrough infections. So infections in people that have had their 2 doses. Like we all know, no vaccine is 100% effective. And there will always be, and we have had a few cases of unfortunate cases of infections in people that have been fully vaccinated that are generally mild, but the public health response is the same. They still have to isolate for a while. Sometimes it's because of these new variants emerging. The vaccines were developed against the initial Wuhan variant, which is similar but is no longer circulating anymore. So the new variants can cause disease here. So the management is the same. The cases are rare, they're mostly very mild, but they will continue to happen until we increase our vaccination coverage rates significantly in the whole population. You know, vaccination has 2 effects. One, it prevents individuals from being infected to a large extent. But secondly, it prevents the virus transmitting from one person to the other, because if it gets to you, you're protected, it bounces off and and you might not find anybody to jump to. And we can only get there when we have enough vaccines in the country. So we have to keep pushing hard on that front, which we are doing as hard as we are able to. And I am confident that towards the end of the year, we'll get there. The challenge is to get to the end of the year. Chief, you also asked about our low numbers. You know, we're still testing about 40 to 60,000 people every week across the country. So this is not really about are we testing. Of course, we would like to test more, sir. But it's not that we're testing too few to detect the virus. Secondly, we triangulate our data with so many other data points. This is not a disease that you can hide. If there were cases, they will come into our treatment centers. Across our states, all the states, treatment centers are empty. Patients are no longer presenting. So there's definitely not a lot of transmission going on at the moment. Our challenge has been how to ensure that those treatment centers do stay active, that people, it's very hard to keep nurses coming to work in a hospital without cases, and making sure that they still have everything to work in case they do have cases. But that's a decision we have made with the states to make sure that our centers we've set up stay open and stay accessible until we raise the vaccine coverage rates as high as we possibly can. There was an interesting question on NIPRID and NCDC, whether one is a junior partner. I don't think that's really a fair question. NCDC is 5 years old. So for me to be even asked whether NCDC will be a senior partner in the relationship, I don't think deserves too much discussion. I think we are partners, we're government agencies, we keep working together because we have to, not that it's a choice. You know, it's the only way we can make progress. There was an interesting question on trials, on whether we have discarded trials for X or Y. I wonder whether my point was slightly misunderstood. I was advocating for trials, and that trials is the pathway to define whether an intervention works or not. And so my point was that we shouldn't jump to a conclusion, even when that conclusion seems self-evident, without doing the work that we need to do to show that there's a benefit that outweighs the risk, which is the underlying principle of everything we do. So until we have done that trial to show that the benefit of this intervention, be it a tablet, an injection, provides a benefit for us that outweighs the risk associated with that intervention. As health professionals, it's very challenging for us to advocate that that intervention should be taken. And that's really my point. So please, anyone doing trials on anything should please go ahead along the ethical pathways to do so. So I think the very last question was on WAHO. WAHO is a big partner. We work together. The DG at the moment is a Nigerian. Professor Stanley Okolo is one of our biggest supporters, and we'll keep working together in the sub-region. So I think those were all the questions. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to say thank you very much for your excellent hosting of today's event so far. I just wanted to add that. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Well, excellence is not a skill, per se. Excellence is not a skill. It is in the attitude. A man can desire greatness, but he has to walk the walk. Irrespective of where anybody puts you in life, you have to show that you deserve to be where you are. I am sure, I am happy, and I guess all of us are totally convinced that Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu is a man of greatness. Secondly, I am sure following from the first, that he deserves to be where he is, and even higher. And our prayer that now that he seemingly represents the younger generation, saddled with a very great responsibility, our good Lord will see him through. And will lead him to greater responsibilities. This is the prayer I see. But now, back to the junk journalism. Junk journalism. If people ask the question, I wanted to hear this question. They said that if you take vaccination, after 2 years, you will die. Some of us have started counting the days. How many days left? So better start writing your will. DG, I think we need to counter some of this junk journalism in the social media. Whether we like it or not, it's a very powerful instrument. A lot of people are saying it, even professionals hold that view, because the people who have been touted to say these things, some of them have been said to be, they say one of them is chairman of Pfizer. Some of them is somebody who had worked with, some of these high research places. So we need to see these things and counter them so that you can encourage people, and I'm sure it will boost compliance. Thank you. Are we ready now? Thank you. 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, sir. I would like to stand on existing protocol. My name is Onzo Obiajulu, and I represent the EMSO group. And what I say from our discussion here so far, I think we are looking at what I call medicine security. I think that's basically what is being discussed here and the way forward. And for us in EMSO, we are your ideal partners in the delivery of unlimited wellness. And I bring also greetings from our Group Managing Director, Dr. Stella Okoli. Evergreen. Thank you, sir. At the end of this presentation, you would actually know why we pride ourselves in wellness, why we pride ourselves in what we are actually doing right now. EMSO Pharmaceutical, you all know, is fully Nigerian owned. And we have a high quality, we're highly qualified, and we invested in people who take ownership and pride in providing wellness to all. From our mission statement, we want to be the leaders in healthcare company in Africa through the provision of world-class products and services. World-class products and services. Our mission statement, we have an unwavering commitment to provide our customers with healthcare products and services of consistently high quality, made readily available at prices which create value for all stakeholders. When we talk about our core values, we believe in commitment. Anything we do, we are committed to it. And we are passionate about what we do in EMSO. We put in all energy. When I talk about energy, if you meet my Group Managing Director at work, you will understand what I mean by we put in our energy into what we do. A lot of us have had contact with her in the past. You should understand what I'm saying, what I'm talking about. And excellence is our watchword and character as well. We have gone a long way in EMSO. From 1977, we started as a small retail. But today, we can actually say that EMSO is an indigenous company with a global standard. and also to curb the issue of medical security, medicine security. When you talk about our therapeutic class or areas of focus, we focus on the key challenges of healthcare challenge, or the key issues of healthcare challenge, like healthy living. We go on the streets. We move. As I was coming this morning, the hold-up was something else. That on its own is stress. We focus on internal medicine, maternal health, tropical medicine as well, then oncology. These are our key areas. EMSO is a group. It's a group. It's not longer EMSO Pharmaceuticals, but EMSO Group. Under this EMSO Group, we have 4 units, or 4 strategic business units. We have the EMSO Pharmaceutical itself. We have EMSO Vaccines. The DG was talking about vaccine. We have EMSO Vaccines. We also have EMSO HESCO. EMSO HESCO is a hospital and equipment unit. By the time we are done with this presentation, you would understand why EMSO is a one-stop shop for medical solutions. We also have Zolon Healthcare. Zolon Healthcare handles the ethical arm for EMSO, where you see imported products. Now, the EMSO Group, the EMSO Pharmaceuticals, we are building on heritage. We started with EMSO Paracetamol, which everybody knows, and we have moved on. We have drugs for other indications. Okay. This is Zolon Healthcare. These are specialty: cardiology, endocrinology, gastroenterology, you talk about all circuits. Gynecology, we talk about magnesium sulfate, that's MAGFate. Immunology, neuropsychiatry. Ophthalmics, preventive medicine and healthy living. There we have things like Envite Super, Celis. Then we also pride in health talks, seminars. We hold a lot of talks, vaccination, screening, and all this is to proffer solution to the healthcare challenges of the Nigerian population. This is our vaccine team. And one thing about the vaccine team is that we guarantee you cold chain supplies. We will be very happy if the cream de la cream that we see here can actually take a visit to our cold chain room. You understand that we put in everything, commitment, character, and energy to everything we do. We also run public awareness on vaccination preventive diseases, hepatitis B screening, free hepatitis screening as well. Then I talked about the hospital equipment. This is it's called the EMSO HESCO. We have medical equipment, diagnostic centers, supply also. We also do supply of medical consumables and equipment. And even in the hospital setting, we tend to, from scratch, we can furnish any hospital with our equipment. We do that. Then, I think this is the one that will actually blow our minds. We have a 60-hectare land in Shagamu, a GMP-certified pharmaceutical industry, GMP certified, WHO GMP certified. What we do there, we do the solid lines, the liquid lines. Even we are moving into topicals. We are talking about vaccines. We hope that one day, EMSO will be called on the roll call of companies that manufacture vaccines locally. In a few months' time, our cephalosporin and beta-lactam line will be ready. And again, we just want a situation where we can secure medicines in this country. We are talking about import substitutions. Those products that we import from India, China, US, we have the capacity to make them in EMZO right now. We are also into contract manufacturing. And when you check our warehouses and our cold room, it's about 80% mechanized. We need to visit Shagamu. And because my host here is on me, if there are any questions, you want to see our products, we have an exhibition stand outside there. And you want to see the MD? No problem, sir. So we appreciate the time. Thank you for the time to make our presentation. And we ask for your commitment. In every sphere we find ourselves as pharmacists, as healthcare practitioners, please remember EMZO Pharmaceuticals. Thank you very much.
He said their company is highly mechanized. And I just stepped forward and he wanted to run away. Well, let us appreciate them. They are part of our sponsors. And let us appreciate labor, particularly homegrown effort for the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. Thank you, EMZO. We are very proud of you. Thank you. Now, we'll now call on the chairman of the BOF, the amiable Prof, to come and do the plaque presentations. My chairman. I really need to escort her because I'm envious of this thing she's wearing on her neck.
Thank you very much. The president, the chairman of the occasion, the president of PSN. I want us to appreciate EMZO again. EMZO group of companies, EMZO Pharmaceutical, because they actually sponsored this third lecture. Everything. So a round of applause. You can see EMZO there, the back, and EMZO everywhere. Thank you very much. I know she's around. We were trying to get her to the high table, but I don't know if she's. EMZO, if you're here, we appreciate you always. You are one of our elders in the profession, and we're proud of you, and we look up to you. Thank you very, very much, EMZO. Now we're going to have the plaque presentation for today to the governor. I'm told he doesn't like being called executive governor. He just wants Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to the governor, and to our chairman of today, Mr. Boss Mustafa. I love that name, Boss, so I keep saying that. And to our guest speaker of today. Excellent, excellent. And I know with him here, there will be a turnaround for pharmacy in the public health sector, and also in the primary healthcare sector. The community pharmacists should brace up and get ready to partner, in the healthcare sector. Thank you very much. For the first presentation, it's going to be to the governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And this presentation is going to be done by our fellow, Mrs. Omudike, the only one with the white hair here. One of our highly respected fellows, very solid, very stable. It carries the whole of Imo State. If we're looking for a fellow anywhere, she's there. So it's going to be done by Mrs. Pharmacist, Mrs. Omudike. And this would be received on behalf of the governor by the one that was acting commissioner at the WAPCP conference. Our own pharmacist, Beckley, a director in the Ministry of Health. Yes, that's for the governor. Oh, yeah, okay.
I wish to present this to you, to give to our governor, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, in appreciation of your presence at this lecture. It's the Board of Fellows saying thank you to you and appreciate you for being here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank the governor. And we're expecting the governor at the dinner tomorrow night. For the second plug, we are going to give to our own chairman for today, Mr. Boss Mustafa, ably represented by our own too, Mr. David Adejo. This presentation will be done by no other person than his friend, the one that was able to commandeer and bring him here, today. If not, because we just had to hold the president. We want him. We want him. He's been in charge of this COVID, pandemic presidential task force, and we know what he did. He did a good job. We want to have him, see him in Lagos, but at least he said a very good representative. So this presentation will be done by our own president, Mazi Samuhabua. Mr. President.
On behalf of the chairman and members of the Board of Fellows of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, I'm pleased to present this award to Mr. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, in his charge and capacity as the chairman of the third public lecture on national development and health care system, impact of pandemic COVID-19 on our country and economy, given this day, 29th of June, 2021. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. The third, but not the last, not the least, the last but not the least, will be presented by our own past president who is here, Pharmacist Yaro Buddha, on behalf of Board of Fellows, to our guest speaker, Dr. Dr. Chikwe Kwazu. Yes, for you. The DG. Can we round a round of applause as he steps forward?
Thank you very much, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. I'm delighted on behalf of Board of Fellows to present to you this plaque at the third public lecture on national development and healthcare systems. I'm particularly delighted to be the one to give to you because as a COVID survivor, I'm fully vaccinated and I still have 40 more years to live. So you can forget about those two years fake news. I'll be around, very much so. Congratulations, and we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my chairman. We have to recognize the chairman of APS, Mrs. Victoria Uku is here around, the chairman of APS. Thank you very much. Of APS. We want to also recognize Dr. Lillian Enone, the Deputy Director, Clinical Services, Representative Medical Director of LASUT. Please. Thank you. And just as we are talking, our own Dr. Stella Okoli, MD, MZO from schools, just walked in. Doctor, you are welcome. Well, according to those who went to the School of Dialectics, you know, dialectics. And when it came to one or two discussions, the matter centered on two. Okay. The matter centered on two keywords. And what are these keywords? Complete and finished. Just as I was coming out, it struck me to say we are coming to the end of this program. That is to say we're almost finishing. And somebody said we're about to complete the program. So I wondered, complete and finish the relationship. So back to the School of Dialectics. And there was a professor arguing with the student, complete and finished. I have finished the program. I have completed the program. What is the difference? At the end of the day, after brainstorming for 30 minutes, they all came to agree that complete and finished, they are the same. Then one very naughty boy raised his hand. Sir, Prof. And he said, yes, go ahead. He said, when you marry a good wife, you are complete. Very complete. But when you marry a bad one, you're what? And when you marry another terribly bad one, you are completely finished. We are actually coming to it. We are not completely finished. Madam, this is a good. We'll now invite for 2 minutes the goodwill message from the DG son. Goodwill message from DG son. Yes. Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
The chairman of today's occasion, who is also Secretary to Government of the Federation, the President, PSF, the Chairman of the Board of Fellows, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matthias Bassi. I am not the DG of SON. I am only a messenger of the DG. And so, he's one of you, which of course you know very well, Farouk Salim. He asked me to greet you and to extend his hand of fellowship to all of you. Of course, he's one of you. And he has in his team two of your very best, Professor Kunle Olobayo and Duru Emeka, who incidentally they are not here. Emeka Duru was one of your very old fellows, who incidentally was one of your officials. The DG asked me to say that he would have been here to share in this glorious moment with you. But because of the exigencies of his office, he couldn't make it here. But the fact is that he's here with you in spirit, and that he's happy as a member of this body. Though yet to be a fellow, he intends to be a fellow very soon. The DG congratulates the board fellows for successfully organizing this year's annual lecture and commend the leadership of BOF for the consistency of this important annual event. He is passionate about the pharmacists group and would have practically loved to be here, but that by next year he hopes to be here. He is aware that this is about the highest honor any pharmacist can get in this country, and that his respect for this body will not be taken away. He asked me to say congratulations and wish you a very good and happy program. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes. I understand that we don't want to miss our welcome cocktail later this evening. And the people who are hosting this welcome cocktail is PSN Lagos State. And their chairman is here. And this is my opportunity to welcome him and recognize him, so that when I come for that event, he'll welcome me and recognize me. PSN Chairman, Lagos State. FAM, Bolagode Iyola. You're welcome, sir. We have our very own distinguished prof. Very, very quiet, very unassuming. She came, sat down, and the only thing she did was just to wave a little bit at me. Prof, you are well noted. She started laughing. Prof. Cecilia Iguilo. Please, no, stand up. Let us see you. You can't hide forever. Thank you very much. President, African Postgraduate College of Pharmacy. Can you imagine that? No wonder he's seated beside Chief Enebeli. Okay. Okay. We have finally.
Is the coordinator of Board of Fellows, Lagos State. Okay. The coordinator. Okay. And his Board of Fellows that is hosting the cocktail.
Okay.
Okay. Board of Fellows. And then the APS is national chairman of APS, not just chairman.
Okay.
Yes, she's national.
Okay. You know, when your chairman beckons, you must answer. Iyola is, yes, the PSN chairman, Lagos State. But he sits here with another cap. So maybe a blue one, because he's wearing a red one as chairman of PSN. But so see him with a blue cap now as a coordinator of fellows, Board of Fellows in Lagos State. That is what you are. And it is the Board of Fellows who are hosting, so you can't hoodwink me. I will come to that cocktail. It's Board of Fellows. Thank you. Then the APS president I talked about is the national chairman. I said chairman. I was trying to cut down only one state out of 35. My sister, stand up again. National. You can see national all over her. Thank you. Well, we will now invite the chairman for closing remarks. Mr. Chairman, sir, thank you. Closing remarks. Closing remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, MC. I stand on all existing protocols. I think the MC wants me to be completely finished. That is why he did not remove this laptop from here. But I'm sure by the time I leave here, I will be finished completely. Let me start by commending the Board of Fellows for organizing this event for a long time without mincing words. I've never attended a forum, a function, public function organized by an organization that kept to time and closed on time. I commend you for that. And I think that is a message you have to pass across to the younger generation very strongly. Nigerians now think coming late to a function is an indication of how big you are. And it's part of some of the things that is not making us move forward. For this meeting today, I'm taking some basic lessons away, which I would like to share with some of us. First, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu gave us a history of the NCDC. And in narrating that history, he made us know the role one of you played. And I think as a pharmacist, I should be proud. I'm talking to you, I'm not a pharmacist. Don't accuse me of... As a pharmacist, you should be proud that one of you contributed to the birthing of an agency that is stopping the loss of lives in Nigeria today from coronavirus. President, sir, all the respect. And he also let us know the importance of listening to your early warning signs and building, sustaining them. We had an Ebola outbreak. We had a resurgence of polio. We had a meningitis outbreak. Then we also had a monkeypox. But experiences we gathered all through were retained, but facilities we put on ground were not sustained. So it pulled us back a little. So I think as professionals, one of the messages is that wherever we are, when we see government facilities that are put in place being run to the ground, we should be able to shout and say, please, this is our commonwealth, let's maintain it. He highlighted the importance of strong collaboration in terms of let us leave our individual silos. But one thing that is clearer is that we should go beyond horizontal and vertical collaboration and look for intertwining collaborations that is very crisscrossing, and that will be able to help us in gaining new grounds. Emphasis was placed on the strong linkage between research and development on one hand, and entrepreneurship and practitioners on the other hand. Research needs to be based, development needs to be informed by research, and research needs to answer development questions. And I think that is one of the things that we are not dealing well. On the other hand, entrepreneurship that benefits from the experience of practitioners will be able to get us where we want. We saw where Emzo was telling us of the things it has. It has potentials to also do more than what it does. The same thing with some of the pharmaceutical industries here. So it is important that we integrate strongly across and within ourselves. Not lastly anyway, Dr. Chikwe mentioned something that is very critical, the challenge of the science. Coronavirus has virtually turned everybody, in a football match, everybody is a coach, so long as you are not in the field. Coronavirus has turned everybody into an epidemiologist, virologist, tech, all rolled into one. When it first came out, they said it is 4G. Now, conspiracy theories that are coming out are saying that you take the virus, you put a bulb on it will light. I mean, so these are some of the things that we as professionals should help in dispel. It is even propagated at times by professionals. Professionals coming up to explain blood clots. When blood clots, you have any vaccine, in any medication, I stand to be corrected, there's a plus-minus sign of survival. And if you have your sample population and you know that you have less than 0.01% fatality, you are good to run home and dry. Experiments are done. People forget that, I stand to be corrected, all the vaccines we are using now were given emergency use authorization by the WHO. The same scientists will come and tell you it will take 5 years before it does it. Okay, wait for the 5 years and let all the population die. But we have an option. Take this, in the next one, these people bundling these stories are people that are almost, with all due respect, 70 years old. I say, Papa, how many more years do you have that you are? So, but please, as professionals, please, all the 70 years old, I pray you get up to 90 and 100. And lastly, I think Dr. Chikwe can give you that assurance. I also can, from my work with the values we are having, the figures we are having for Nigeria are real. At times, when we see good things in the country, we don't want to believe it because traditionally there's a trust deficit between the people and the government, not only in Nigeria, all over the world. Even those of us that were involved in the COVID, it became surprising that Dr. Chikwe and his team have to be doing extra work to look for cases that is showing these numbers are not. Because, I mean, Brazil, we have the same geopolitical, geographic climate and all. This South Africa, you can explain because there are some areas that are very temperate. But countries with the same thing, we are still not getting the numbers. Are we not testing enough? We are. But the point is that for whatever it is, when the government put some hard decisions, we shut down the country for almost 2 months. Fully shut down. Then the military were on the road. We didn't know those could give us some after. So, to the extent possible, our values are correct, but we need to keep them that way. If we relax, the delta that we have in Niger Delta, if the other delta come, we all run away. So once more, I say congratulations, madam, and I wish the new executive or the new chairperson that you will choose later more success. Thank you very much.
Madam still has some years to go. Okay. We will now invite Farm Margaret Obono for the vote of thanks. But before she comes, let's recognize Mrs. Christy Appa, General Manager, Medical Services, Nigerian Post Authority, and also Co-Coordinator, Board of Fellows, Lagos, Farm Mrs. Olaumi Peters. You're welcome. Mrs. Pharmacist Obono, please. Are you here? Yes. This is the lady working very hard alongside her committee members, the chairman and other members, for the success we have today. Incidentally, she is my friend, but there is a limit to this friendship. What friendship has joined together, money will always divide. Madam.
I'm listening to you.
You're listening to me. Okay, we will settle after. Please, let's welcome very hardworking, very unassuming, very humble lady, Pharmacist Margaret Obono. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MC. The Executive Governor of Lagos State, our keynote address speaker, the Secretary to Government of the Federation, President PSN, the Chairman Board of Fellows, I think I should stop at that before I would disrupt the protocol. I want to appreciate everyone that has made this third public lecture of Board of Fellows, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, a success. We've had a very informative keynote address today from no other person than who should talk about COVID pandemic, the one who has been at the helm of affairs and the top of management of the pandemic, our guest lecturer, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu. We appreciate you, sir. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Our chairman of today, we appreciate you. When the chairman, Mr. Boss Mustafa, accepted that I was going to be the chairman, we were excited. We knew he would be here, but last minute something happened. We appreciate him. Please, representative of the SGF, please appreciate him. We appreciate him for being here and for accepting to be the chairman. The governor of Lagos State, we appreciate you, appreciate the representative and his team, all those he has brought. Our chief host, the president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, we appreciate you, sir. We know how busy your schedule is, but that you got out time to be here today. Thank you very much. Please, let's put our hands together for. This was made possible today because the chairman board of fellows put it together, got a team together to put this together. Like Dan said, he's not bidding you farewell, but you have done well in the 3 years you have been there. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much for the impact you have created. For our senior fellows, very senior fellows and distinguished fellows, distinguished ladies and gentlemen that all came to make this a success. I can't count one by one. If I have to mention names one by one, everybody in Board of Fellows is very, very important, is an achiever. Before you become a member of Board of Fellows, you must have achieved great height in your area of practice. So I want to say welcome and thank you for giving out your time to be here to make this event a success. Please, let's put our hands together for ourselves. The chairman of the planning committee, Pharmacist Sir Sam Ubachuku, please stand up and take a bow. I mean, he couldn't have been better. He was there, several meetings, and so on that made this possible. Thank you very much. For members of the press, I appreciate you. Thank you. And finally, please, I want us to appreciate the Almighty God that gave us good weather, that brought all of us here. We are all here. We've had a good time. It wouldn't have been this way, but for the Almighty God that made it possible. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Thank you, and thank you very much. Thank you once again. God bless you. We wish you safe journey to your different places when you go. And don't forget that there's evening cocktail hosted by Lagos State Board of Fellows today in Sheraton also. You're welcome. I hear it will be like no others. Time, 6 p.m. Lagos State, right? 6 p.m. There's a live band. Chairman said there's a live band. Please come and dance. And I hear it's old school music. God bless you.
The invitation is not complete. I hear it's old school music. Come with your akpolas. Thank you. Please, there is refreshment. There is refreshment and there is refreshment. Pharmacist Margaret Obono, lest we forget, is Chairman Nigerian Chapter, West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. Congratulations and thank you all. Thank you very much. There'll be a group photograph. Abi?
Yes, that's what we are trying to arrange.
Okay.
Nigeria's come on name to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes was join in one evening there to serve with heart and one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.